There's a common misconception about God's omnipotence. Omnipotence doesn't mean that God can do anything, including logically incoherent or contradictory actions. For instance, God can't create a married bachelor, a square circle, or a rock so heavy he can't lift it. These are not things that can exist in any possible world. They are contradictions in terms. Similarly, God cannot do evil because evil is not a thing that can be created. It is a deficiency of the good, a lack or corruption of goodness. So when we say God cannot do evil, this doesn't imply a lack of power. It's simply recognizing that evil is a non-existent absence, a contradiction to God's perfect nature. To say God could choose evil would be like saying God could be less than God. That's a logical impossibility. Critics often suggest, couldn't God have made a better world? But this question assumes there's a way to improve upon a world that allows free will and moral growth, while also ensuring no evil exists. Such a world is a logical contradiction. It's asking for a world where people are free but incapable of making their own choices. Even if God created a world where no one sinned, it wouldn't be a world of genuine freedom. It would be a deterministic system where humans are pre-programmed to act good. That's not a better world, it's a robotic one. God's creation, with all its complexities, is the best kind of world, precisely because it balances free will, the possibility of evil, and the opportunity for redemption. And while evil exists now, deists hold that God's ultimate plan will resolve and redeem all suffering, bringing eternal justice and joy. To illustrate this further, let's think about the kind of creatures God would have to create to only choose good. These beings would be morally perfect, yes, but they wouldn't be free in the truest sense of the word. Real freedom means the capacity to act against your nature. Without that, there's no moral struggle, no real growth. Consider how we, as human beings, develop moral character. We aren't morally perfect instantly. It's through struggling with temptation, learning from mistakes, and choosing to act according to what's good that we grow into better people. A being that is incapable of choosing evil wouldn't have that kind of development journey. There would be no moral growth because there would be no need to grow. It would be a static, non-relational existence. The potential for evil in creation is actually what makes goodness meaningful. If evil had no possibility of entering the picture, then there wouldn't be any real contrast between good and bad. In a world where we can only choose good, goodness would be meaningless. It would be just another predetermined condition of our existence, not something that we actively engaged with and choose. God, being perfectly good, wanted creatures who could reflect that goodness authentically. The possibility of evil allows us to understand and experience the profound beauty and value of choosing good. It's the contrast between good and evil that makes the good shine all the more brightly. Think about it this way. Imagine a person who has perfect integrity. Such a person cannot lie, cheat, or steal because to do so would violate their very character. Would we say that this person lacks free will because they can't do evil? Of course not. In fact, we would say that this person is more free than one who is morally corrupt, because they're free from the impulses and constraints of immorality. In the same way, God's inability to choose evil doesn't mean he lacks free will. It means that his will is perfectly aligned with his perfect nature. In fact, his perfect goodness is all form of ultimate freedom, freedom from all evil, corruption, and imperfection. The existence of evil does not mean that God is incapable of dealing with it. Many atheists argue that if God is all-knowing, then he knew that evil would enter the world, and that should have prevented him from creating it in the first place. But his argument overlooks a critical point. If God prevented all evil from entering the world, that would mean he's preventing us from having the free will to make meaningful choices. The problem with this line of thinking is that it assumes that God's purpose for creating us was simply to avoid evil at all costs. But God's ultimate goal for humanity isn't merely the avoidance of evil, it's the cultivation of genuine, free love and moral goodness. Without the possibility of choosing evil, there would be no possibility of redemption, no need for grace, and no opportunity for growth in relationship with God. Evil exists as a byproduct of free will, but it is ultimately defeated through the very same free will that allows us freely to choose goodness, love, and redemption. I want to end this video with a quotation by St. Augustine. God judged it better to bring good out of evil than to permit no evil to exist.